Ahoy there, my children of the Force. Welcome to Star Wars Transmissions Weekly Q&A, and I'm your boy, Dan. We've got some awesome questions to dive into. It's been a minute since we did a Q&A, and I'm super excited to dive into these questions. So let's get into it. Let's start answering these questions. So for our first question, 80s Kid from the 90s asks, does Shin's personality remind you of Maul, or is her character more scary? So I love this question. I love starting off with Ahsoka. And so this question is referring to Baylan Skoll's apprentice, Shin Hati. And in the 2 episodes that we've gotten so far from Ahsoka, I totally get Maul vibes for Shin. Maul's appearance is always going to be, at least for me, one of the most frightening in Star Wars. He has just a scary appearance, and oh man, I remember when the Phantom Menace first came out and I saw the trailer and I was like, who is this super insidious, scary looking character? He still is one of the coolest looking characters in Star Wars. So I'm going to say that Maul, appearance wise, is more scary than Shin, but again, I'm totally getting Maul vibes with her. And so there's a couple of things that made me think about Maul when we were going through these first 2 episodes, part 1 and part 2. So let's talk about that and how Shin reminded me of Maul. So for starters, her fighting style seems very similar to Maul's fighting style. She's got a very ferocious, very quick, and I don't know yet if it's acrobatic, but she's got a very quick and ferocious kind of fighting style, which seems to me very reminiscent of Maul's fighting style. So Maul, he used the Juyo variant of Form 7 of lightsaber combat, and that was considered one of the most aggressive and unpredictable forms of lightsaber combat. And Juyo was an intensely aggressive form, and not only did it utilize a highly aggressive offense, but it required the practitioner to actively draw upon their anger and their negative emotions to fuel their assault. So as they're fighting, they're drawing on their emotions, they're drawing on their anger to help fuel their offense. And so while we don't know if that's the same lightsaber form that Shin is using with her attacks, it wouldn't shock me at all if we find out that that is what she's using. A lot of times you see a lot of Sith and a lot of dark side practitioners utilize Form 7, the Juyo variant, or Form 4, which is also another very acrobatic type of lightsaber combat. So right off the rip with these first 2 episodes, Shin's fighting style seems very reminiscent to Maul for me. And so that was one of the things that I honed in on very early on, because we see her in part 1, and basically the opening scene, she attacks the New Republic soldiers or whatever they are in that starship that Morgan Elsbeth is on, and you see her, she gets right to it, and she quickly murks those New Republic soldiers. So yeah, that right off the rip made me think of, let me go through this photo here, of Shin. And then another thing that 100% immediately made me think of Maul was in part 1, a little later on in the episode, we get this, which I think was 100% an homage to Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, right? We get this scene where Baylan has told Shin, hey, you need to go to Lothal because Ahsoka Tano's apprentice, she lives on Lothal. So Shin goes to Lothal, and she uses a probe droid to find Sabine, very reminiscent of when Maul used a probe droid on Tatooine to find Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan, and company when he was searching for them. And I love that so much. Not only is it sick that it's a total homage to Darth Maul, but I just look how sick this image of Shin as she's flanked by these 2 HK assassin droids and then her starship. So yeah, that was another thing that immediately made me think of Maul. Again, I think at the bare minimum, Dave Filoni was making a nod to Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace. How could he not? And then the other thing that made me think, or at least kind of made me think about Maul in terms of Shin and her personality, was how she speaks. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue, and Maul didn't have a lot of dialogue in The Phantom Menace. But how she speaks throughout these first 2 episodes kind of reminded me of Darth Maul, and kind of reminded me of some of the moments that we do get of Maul speaking in The Phantom Menace. She's kind of like reserved almost. She's not super animated. She's reserved in how she's speaking. So yeah, I do think that 100% that if you thought about Maul when you're seeing Shin, I think that you're on the right track. I do think that Filoni probably took some inspiration from Darth Maul when crafting Shin. And you've seen this a bunch, I'm sure, or you've read this a bunch, that Star Wars, the story, it rhymes. We get concepts or themes that constantly repeat throughout these films and now these shows and these stories. And it wouldn't surprise me if Dave Filoni was like, hey, I want to pull from Maul a little bit when creating this character Shin. I love that Maul is very much based off of, from Greek mythology, Sisyphus. And Sisyphus was basically, he like evaded death, and as punishment, Hades made him for eternity have to roll a boulder up a hill, only for that boulder, once it got to the top, roll back down. And Sisyphus would have to do that for eternity. And if you look at Maul's story from that lens, you see that, oh yeah, that is 100% Maul. Maul is destined to fail over and over and over again. And we see that in the Clone Wars and in Rebels, just constant failure. And I bring that up because I'm curious if Filoni kind of pulled some of that with Shin. It'll be interesting to see kind of what Shin's deal is as we get further into Ahsoka and further into the story. All right, so let me catch up with the chat before we move on to our next question. What's going on? 80s kid from the 90s. Glad you're here. I answered your question. 80s kids from the 90s says Shin is scarier than Maul, in my opinion. As I mentioned, I think Maul, just his appearance, he looks like the devil. I love his horns, his tattoos. They're just so dope. And I actually did a short about the design and what went into creating Maul's design, which makes me love his design even that much more. But hey, if you feel like Shin is scarier than Maul, like that's totally fine. Ward Lafferty, welcome, my friend. Sean Bendu, welcome, my friend. Sonia, welcome. Glad you guys are here. All right, let's move on to our next question, which comes from Emperor Vader 9688, who asks, might be a silly question, but are Baylan and Shin Dark Jedi or Sith? I think this is an excellent question because it might not be as clear for some folks whether they are Dark Jedi or they are Sith. So before I specifically answer Emperor Vader's question, let me first explain what a Dark Jedi is, because not everyone might not know what a Dark Jedi is, but basically in canon, a Dark Jedi is basically a Force-sensitive who, while they're devoted to the dark side of the Force and utilizing the dark side of the Force, they were not Sith. They were not members of the Inquisitorius either, and they did not devote themselves to the Sith religion. Because remember, the Sith, just like the Jedi, it's a religion. They worship the dark side of the Force. So the Sith, again, on the other hand, right, they're a religious order, an ancient religious order. They worship the dark side of the Force, and they're devoted specifically to that religion. And again, that's where a Dark Jedi and a Sith differ from one another. A Dark Jedi is just, hey, I'm tapping into the dark side of the Force to do whatever it is I want to do, and I'm not devoted to this religion that the Sith follow. I'm just someone going about my business utilizing the dark side. So now to answer Emperor Vader's question, as far as we are aware, Baylan and Shin are not Sith. While we see them tapping into the dark side and they're utilizing emotions and techniques that we would probably associate with the Sith, as far as we are aware, they don't worship this Sith religion. Therefore, they would not be Sith. And I mentioned this in my review for part 1 and part 2 of Ahsoka, but it seems to me like there's some conflict in Baylan. You can see throughout these 2 episodes, he has some reservations about some of the things that he's doing, not entirely, going out and killing people, but just some of the things that he knows he's going to have to do because at this point, Morgan Elsbeth is paying him for his services. He's acting as a mercenary for Morgan Elsbeth. There seems to be some conflict in what he knows he's going to have to do for his employer. You see at one point at the end of part 2, Morgan Elsbeth asks Baylan to reach out in the Force, see if he can sense Ahsoka. And he says that, hey, I can't really sense her, but her determination I can sense in the Force. She is determined to find us. She's determined to hunt us down. And he understands that, hey, if I continue to work for Morgan Elsbeth, there is going to be a serious possibility here that I may have to kill Ahsoka. And we get that question from Morgan Elsbeth. Hey, is that a problem for you? And you hear him say something along the lines of, it would be a shame to kill Ahsoka. There's so few Jedi around at this point. So I definitely think that there is some conflict in Baylan. Shin, I haven't gotten that vibe from Shin yet. This is another thing I mentioned in my breakdown for those 2 episodes. Shin seems to me like she's like ride or die dark side. She seems like she is all in on just tapping into the dark side, doing whatever she needs to do to accomplish whatever her goals are, whatever her motivations are, or whatever her master Baylan's motivations are. Whereas Baylan, we don't know yet fully what his motivations and his goals are, but I feel like he wants to achieve those, but he has some reservations there. Where Shin, I get the sense that Shin will do whatever. She will do whatever she needs to achieve her goals, to do what she thinks is right. And I'm curious if we're going to see that play out as the season progresses. One of the things I mentioned in my reaction video was that I could see a scenario where potentially towards season end, Baylan winds up returning to the light. My wife Danielle was listening earlier to the Ringiverse podcast, and they were breaking down the 2 episodes, and the girls were discussing Shin and Baylan's relationship, and I can't remember which one of them it was in the podcast, but mentioned that, hey, maybe Shin is Baylan's daughter, which I think would be excellent, but also which is scary to me because my first thought was, oh my God, could we see Shin kill Baylan by the end of the season? I do not think Baylan is making it out of season 1 alive. After part 1, I turned to Dan. I was like, Baylan's done by the end of the season, which I think, for sadly, since Ray Stevenson passed, would probably be the best thing for this series. But I think just thematically and story-wise, I think Baylan is going to wind up not making it through the season. So yeah, I think that there's some conflict there between him. So that all of this is to say that these 2, they are not Sith as far as we are aware. They are dark Jedi doing some nefarious things for their employer, Morgan Elsbeth. All right. Let's see. Let's catch up here with the chat quickly. Bendu, how's it going, my friend? Glad to see that you are here. 80s kid from the 90s. I mean, her personality is scarier than Maul. Okay, so going back earlier, you think her personality might be scarier? I don't know. Could you imagine being in a room alone with Maul? Like, he's terrifying. Even just, I'm currently rewatching Rebels, and there's multiple instances where Maul just like he snaps and loses it, and he starts yelling at Ezra. At one point in Rebels, he captures the ghost crew to try to get Kanan and Ezra to do what he wants, and he like freaks out at them and quickly snaps and starts screaming at them. And imagine being in a room with Maul alone. He's freaking terrifying, just his appearance and how he acts. But again, if you feel like Shin is scarier, that's totally cool. All right, let's move and groove to our next question. So we're going to stick with Shin and Baylan. Love all these Ahsoka questions. So Worms McCuddy 4953 asks, why are Shin and Baylan's lightsabers orange? Love this question. This was something that Danny Girl and I discussed back when the Ahsoka trailer was dropped, and this was something that I saw a lot of people discuss because, yeah, if you take a look at their lightsabers, they are not straight up red like Darth Vader's lightsaber or Sidious's lightsaber. They have this like orangish kind of reddish hue to them. And this is another thing that I mentioned in my breakdown for these 2 episodes, is that was, I think, was done intentionally to show that, hey, maybe these 2 characters are not what they seem. So here's Baylan's lightsaber, and this here looks a little bit more red. It was difficult for me to get a screenshot where their lightsabers are not moving around or not blurred. So this is like one of the clearer ones that I could get. And it looks still kind of red, but you could see up at the top, it has a little bit of an orange hue to it. And here's Shin's lightsaber, and that very much has a more orange kind of a hue to it than just a straight up red lightsaber compared to, let's say, even Merrick, who we see in part 2 duel Ahsoka. But again, if you compare their lightsabers to, Maul, Sidious, Darth Vader, they're definitely different. Their colors are different. I love that they're orange, by the way. I love getting some new colors in Star Wars. It's always dope. So 100% Dave Filoni did this on purpose, and I know that because he actually talked about this in an interview. So I'm going to read to you guys what he said, because I think this is very, very cool and also will help kind of my explanation. So Filoni says, that was very intentional. I didn't make them like just a stark red. I remember as a kid that Vader's lightsaber kind of fluctuated from visual effects to visual effects, being a little bit more orange. I didn't want to go like straight up orange, but it's identifying a little bit of something, maybe to kids that they might not straight up be what we think they are at the beginning, which again, I think just goes back to what I mentioned earlier. I think that there 100% is conflict in Baylan. Shin, I'm not so sure at this point, but I do think at this point that Baylan is potentially conflicted. And so I think that by Dave Filoni saying, hey, I want these characters to have orange lightsabers, I think it's supposed to visually signify to the audience that, hey, these characters, they're not Sith Lords. They are, they're Darksiders. Obviously, we see them. I mean, right in the opening scene, we see Baylan Merc. What was that guy's name? Captain Hale, I believe, that Schmohawk that called them Imperial trash and wanted to see their identification. He straight up murks that guy, and then Shin just goes slaughtering the rest of the people on the ship. And same thing with Baylan. He goes and freaking slaughters people as he gets to Morgan Elsbeth's cell. So they're clearly Darksiders. They're doing some shady things, but I think that orange lightsaber is meant to visually show the audience that, hey, these Darksiders, these villains may not be what we potentially think they are. So yeah, one of the things that I thought was cool, like when I first saw their lightsabers, I immediately thought of Darth Xana's lightsaber. So this is an image here from the oh crap, I can't remember. It's the second book in the Darth Bane trilogy, and is it the Rule of Two? It might be called the Rule of Two. I can't remember exactly which what the name of that book is. But this is one of the images, pieces of art that came with the book, and Darth Xana's lightsaber is called Bane's Heart. And so that a lot of times you'll see that color, that like orangey kind of red, referred to as Bane's Heart. In Legends, that's what Darth Xana's lightsaber was called, Bane's Heart. And my mind immediately went to this image when I first saw Baylan and Darth Xana's lightsaber. I'm thinking as I'm speaking about this, when I did a breakdown for the teaser trailer of Ahsoka, one of the things that I theorized, which now, like, hindsight is 2020, one of the things I theorized was when we see Morgan Elsbeth, she's got the star map. At the time, during the teaser, I thought that was the world between worlds. I didn't realize that was the star map. And one of the theories that I came up with was, maybe Baylan is Darth Bane and Shin is Darth Xana, and they've come through the world between worlds, and that's why we're seeing them in this timeline, which obviously now we know that's not the case. But anyway, I immediately, that was one of my first thoughts when I saw their lightsabers was, whoa, that color is super cool. Totally reminds me of Darth Zana. And even you see Darth Bane's lightsaber here has got that like orangey kind of reddish hue to it. So yeah, I love that we're getting some newer colors, some different colors in in Star Wars. We haven't seen, as far as I know, in any sort of canon show or movie, I can't recall there being an orange lightsaber that we've seen. So I think this might be the first on-screen moment where we're getting an orange lightsaber. I'm all for it. I want to see more diverse lightsaber colors. It's one of the things I've talked about in my streams about High Republic that I love about the High Republic is getting to see Jedi wield different lightsaber colors that we don't normally get to see. So yeah, this is great. I love it. And I think there's going to be more that meets the eye to Baylan and Shin, especially when you factor in their lightsabers. So, all right, let's hit up the chat here quickly before we move on to our next question. So, 80s Kid from the 90s asks, is Marok the canon version of Starkiller? Oh, don't you worry. I'll be discussing that in a little bit, so we'll hit that up shortly. But then he also asks, since Elsbeth is a Night Sister, do you think she will revive Maul from the dead? Well, even when Night Sisters revive someone from the dead, it's only for a short amount of time. They can't revive someone and have them just like bring them back to life and they're good to go. It's only for a very short period of time. It taxes them tremendously. I love the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor, and there's the book, the like companion book, we'll say, that came out, Battle Scars, that takes place like I think a year or two before Jedi Survivor. And quick spoiler here, so if you haven't read that book, you don't want any spoilers. It's not the biggest spoiler, but you don't want anything spoiled from that book, dip out. But in that book, Merrin uses that Night Sister spell to revive a bunch of stormtroopers and have them attack. Or is it stormtroopers, or are they? What's the name of the marauders that are like chasing you in Jedi Fallen Order? I'm totally drawing a blank on them. They're like a bunch of bounty hunters. You experience them in Jedi Fallen Order. In Battle Scars, they've been after the Mantis crew in Cal Kestis. And she revives either them or stormtroopers to basically attack the people that are attacking Merrin and Cal. And it was so dope. But they can only be revived for so long. But if we got a scene where Elsbeth was to revive Maul, that'd be kind of... The only thing is, though, we don't know... Does Obi-Wan... Do we know what Obi-Wan did with Maul's body? He had to have burned it, would be my thought, right? That would be my thought, is that Obi-Wan would have created a pyre to burn Maul as opposed to burying him. So I don't think that would happen. But like, if Morgan Elsbeth somehow stumbled upon Maul's body and revived him, like that'd be I wouldn't say no to that. That would be kind of fun. All right, let's move and groove to our next question. And this comes from BobDude273, who asks, who was the person Ahsoka fought in part 2? Any idea? So, 80s Kid from the 90s, here's that question. So, in part 2 of Ahsoka, we see Hera and Ahsoka travel to Corellia because they find this HK assassin droid that was left in the comm tower where Sabine's living. Ahsoka chops off its head. They bring it back to Sabine where she's recuperating from being stabbed by Shin. And they're like, yo, where this comes from Corellia. They determine that the HK assassin droid came from Corellia. They go to Corellia. They go and inspect a former like factory of Morgan Elsbeth. They realize, oh snap, these are ex-Imperials. And so all hell breaks loose. And during the melee, Marok appears, and that's where we get that really cool duel of with Ahsoka. I've said this in the trailer, I said this in my reaction, and now I'm actually kind of going back on what I said, but in my trailer breakdown and my reaction for these 2 episodes, I was like, yo, Marok is the 8th brother. He looks like the 8th brother, right? If we look at the 8th brother here, their helmets look very similar, their lightsabers look similar. You can kind of see Marok's got these like almost like spike or like teeth sort of things on his lightsaber on the circular part. Same thing with the 8th brother. His, when he would activate it and it would twirl, it would almost have like a saw effect. These like, yeah, saw kind of like teeth that would mess people up. And so my thought was, oh, that's the 8th brother. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, I don't think it's the 8th brother, and I kind of hope it's not the 8th brother. What I will say, if it is the 8th brother, it wouldn't surprise me because, again, their helmet looks the same. Their lightsaber hilts kind of look the same. I know Marok's got 5 fingers. That's a bunch of people like honed in on that during the teaser trailer. Was, oh, Marok's got 5 fingers. The 8th brother has only got 4. So, like, yeah, I could understand that. If Marok is the 8th brother, cool. If not, I would actually prefer that. I would prefer that. I'd rather Marok be a completely new character that we have never seen before, because I think that would be way more interesting. It would be way more intriguing. Then we have to find out, like, yo, what's this guy's backstory? Where, how did he survive the fall of the Empire? What was he doing during the days of the Empire? Because, hey, from the end of season 2 of Rebels on, we were made to believe, Star Wars fans were made to believe that in canon, the Inquisitorius was done. So what the heck happened? Why were Inquisitors not hunting these remaining Jedi? Why were their Inquisitors not hunting Luke? So I wanna know more about Marok. That's where the 8th brother kind of makes a little bit sense. Like, yo, maybe he got hurt so badly during his fall when he was fighting Ahsoka. Was it Ahsoka or Maul that did that to him? I think it was, or maybe it was a Kanan. I can't remember. Whomever jacked up his lightsaber, he tries to dip out, and then as he's trying to twirl helicopter away, he falls to his presumed death. Like, maybe he fell and hurt himself so badly that he had to like go into hiding, recuperate, and he couldn't act as an Inquisitor. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but those are some of the things that I want to know about. Like, what's been this guy's deal? Where has he been all this time? Why was he not hunting Jedi during the years leading up to the Battle of Yavin and then leading up to the Battle of Endor? Where was this dude? What was he doing? So those are some things that make me intrigued about Marok. I've been seeing people theorizing that Marok is Ezra, which to me is like, yo, that is just straight up shitposting. That's people just trying to get clicks, trying to get views, because that is absolute bullshit. There is not a chance in hell Dave Filoni's gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna make Marok Ezra. Here's where I'm like, this theory makes literally 0 sense. Even if Dave Filoni did potentially want to do us dirty as fans, how the hell would Thrawn be in a completely different galaxy, but Ezra is here now as a Darksider? Like, that makes no sense at all. None whatsoever to me. So there's not a chance in hell that Marok is Ezra. I've seen a lot of people theorizing that Marok is Starkiller, just like 80s Kid from the 90s mentioned earlier, because we can see, I don't know if it's in both. I didn't wait around to see in both end credits. But in the credits for Ahsoka, Sam Witwer is listed, I think, as a voice actor. So people have been theorizing like, yo, maybe Sam Witwer is going to be the voice of Marok, which I think would be cool. Sam Witwer is an excellent voice actor, but that immediately made people be like, yo, he's Starkiller. I want no part of Marok being Starkiller. I really hope that that's not who Marok is. I think that would be kind of whack. So, but it could be a possibility. It wouldn't shock me if Dave Filoni kind of pulled some inspiration from Starkiller's story and character to create Marok. That I could kind of see. But I think the more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm like, yo, I want Marok to just be Marok. I want Marok to just be a completely new character that we have not met before, and we're going to get to learn more about this character as we move along, because I think that would be much more interesting. I love his armor. His armor is so sick. Like, let me go back because you can see a little bit better here. This dude just looks like a knight. Like, he looks like an evil knight. Like, it reminded me of and I can't remember the character's name in Excalibur, just like the knight that wears black. Like, that's who this character reminded me of. And he just looks sick. And I don't know who the actor is that did the body work for Marok, but I love that whenever Marok appeared, he was like absolutely menacing and scary, just kind of like looming in the background until we get him ready to duel Ahsoka. But even when he appears to Ahsoka, he's so like freaking frightening and menacing in that moment. So yeah, I'm so intrigued by Marok, guys. I cannot wait to learn more about this character. The villains of this series so far, I am super, super interested by. I'm very, very intrigued. Okay, so moving on to our last question, which I love this question so much. This comes from Jessica Schultz 8325, who asks, "What is your favorite lightsaber design?" This was easy, but also kind of tough. Easy because I knew right away the one that I was picking immediately came to mind. One of the lightsaber designs that I wanted to pick. But it was difficult for me to pick just one. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to just choose one. I'm going to choose more than one. So there is a couple. Let me make this bad boy a little bit larger. So I love Stellan Gios's lightsaber from the High Republic. So Stellan Gios, he's a High Republic Jedi Master. His lightsaber, what I love about his lightsaber, among just other things, is that it was based off of the famous sword Excalibur. The design for Stellan Gios's lightsaber was based on Excalibur was used as an inspiration for this lightsaber, in which you can totally see when you look at that lightsaber, like, yo, that is a very like extravagant looking lightsaber. It looks like a lightsaber that has been through some stuff, but also just looks amazing. And it looks very like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Exquisite. All right, that's the word I'm thinking about, with that gold in it. I love it. And so one of the things that I think is dope is, let me go over here so you guys, these like I can't remember what they're called, but these little like cross guard things, not the lightsaber part, but these like metallic cross guards. There's a specific name for them, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head. But what they do is, you'll see here, when it's not ignited, it is closed like this. But then when Stellan Gios would ignite it, they would extend out as the lightsaber pushed them out. It's just such a sick design, and I'm not a big, I really like that we could go and buy lightsaber hilts now from a ton of different companies, but I haven't been one of those people that likes to buy specific lightsabers for characters, Star Wars characters. I like to buy some of the more like, I don't want to say customized lightsabers, but unique lightsabers from lightsaber crafters. Stellan Gios is one of the few whose lightsaber I would buy from lightsaber sellers, because it is just such a sick lightsaber. It looks freaking beautiful. I love that it's got gold in it. I love that it's got white in it and it's got black in it. I love lightsabers that aren't just one color and that kind of have a few different colors to them. And so, yeah, Stellan Gios, his lightsaber is probably my favorite lightsaber, bar none. But there are some others that I really, really love. I love Cal Kestis's lightsaber. So, as I mentioned before, right, there's a bunch of different lightsaber manufacturers and online lightsaber sellers that you can go and cop a lightsaber from. And I have my eye on one from Saberforge that I'm bringing it up because it's got shrouds on the hilt. And Cal Kestis's lightsaber has made me fallen in love with lightsabers that have shrouds on them. Like, that is the coolest, one of the coolest lightsaber designs that we've gotten as far as I'm concerned in quite some time. I love the shrouds on his lightsaber. And so Cal Kestis's lightsaber, his second lightsaber, because originally that was his master Jaro Tapal's lightsaber, and Cal inherited that lightsaber when Jaro Tapal was killed. And you get to like customize it throughout the Jedi Fallen Order game, but you also get to customize it as well throughout Jedi Survivor. And a lot, what I found more often than not is I would typically keep Jaro Tapal's shrouded emitter. I love the shrouds, man. They just look so freaking cool. The only thing that if I could change Cal's lightsaber, it would be, and you could do this in Fallen Order, which is dope, I would change the colors. I wouldn't want it to be just straight up like chrome or silver. I'd want it to be maybe like the grip be black, the emitter be kind of like gray or silver. Like that'd be kind of cool. Which you can kind of see the handle, the grip is like a dark gray. I also love that, like, I don't know what you would call that style of grip, but it reminds me of like a is it a bench press barbell? That like kind of ridged grip. I love that because I feel like it would just be super nice to be able to have that grip and wield. It'd be very, very good for gripping, and it wouldn't be too it wouldn't cause much of an obstruction. I think that would be the kind of grip I would want to have on my lightsaber. So yeah, Cal's is another lightsaber that I absolutely love. Bro, speaking of shrouds, I freaking love Sabine Wren's lightsaber. And I know there's going to be people that are saying, well, oh, that's Ezra's lightsaber. Just as Hugh Wang says to Sabine, that is her lightsaber. She made modifications to it. Ezra gave it to her. She's been wielding it for some time, so that is her lightsaber. And as I mentioned earlier, shrouded lightsabers are my jam. So yeah, I freaking love this lightsaber. I had always enjoyed Ezra's, both of Ezra's lightsabers are really cool, but his second lightsaber I think is cooler. I like that he's kind of got some blue in it. And now that it's Sabine's lightsaber and that she added shrouds to it, oh man, that lightsaber is sick. It is so freaking cool. And I can't wait to see Sabine wield it even more. When I saw that lightsaber kind of come out, we saw that shrouds, was like, oh, this is what I'm here for, baby. This looks so dope. I love that it's also got a green blade. I go back and forth on what color blade I would want my lightsaber, whether it be green or purple. Depending on my mood, one day it might be green, one day it might be purple. But yeah, the fact that Sabine is rocking that green lightsaber, it's got that shroud emitter on it now. Yeah, this lightsaber is so freaking dope. And then while we're talking about Ahsoka, Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati's lightsabers are sick. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of that like kind of emitter. Like, it almost looks like, reminds me of kind of like I don't know what the exact term would be, but you'll see them like is it Bushido? Is that the martial art where it's like sword fighting? I can't remember. But you'll see kind of like Japanese swords will have that sort of like cross guard, so to speak. Never have been like my biggest jam, but I love that, you know, you got this here and this looks cool, but I love the grip. I also love these like little like spikes or claws that are coming out at the top of her emitter. Like and that it's orange, it just looks sick. And then Baylan's lightsaber, how they're not cross guards, but these kind of got these like wings that come out of the emitter. Dude, it looks dope. I am like, when I saw their lightsabers, like, these lightsabers are sick. They look super cool. And again, what I mentioned earlier, I like lightsabers that are not just one straight up color. And I like that both of them have a little bit of different colors in each of them. Shin's like grip is kind of, there's like, it almost looks like there's like a leather wrapping around the grip, or maybe it's kind of like a cloth wrapping, but it's white. Looks really cool. And then Baylan's got this like black grip. Just looks really, really dope. And then Reva's, the third sister's lightsaber, is another one that I love. I love lightsabers that are black. the hilts that, or excuse me, let me rephrase that. I love lightsaber hilts that are black and have black in them. Like that's, if I'm designing a lightsaber or picking my lightsaber, 100% it's going to have black in it. I mean, you guys, I pretty much every stream I do, I wear a black t-shirt. Like black is my favorite color. So I would 100% have black. And because the Inquisitor's lightsabers by and large are all black, I pretty much love like all of the Inquisitor's lightsabers. But Reva's lightsaber, I really, really like. Hers is probably my favorite of the Inquisitors. I love that you can separate them and make them into two single-bladed lightsabers. Like, absolutely freaking sick. But then you can combine them and you can make it into a double-bladed lightsaber. And it spins. Like, dude, her lightsaber is so freaking sick. It looks beautiful. It looks awesome. I love the design of the hilt. And yeah, the fact that you can utilize it in several different ways just makes it an excellent, excellent freaking hilt. Speaking of Inquisitors, because Marok, we know he was a former Inquisitor. I love Marok's lightsaber, and like I pulled up two photos just so we could kind of look at his hilt. I can't tell if his lightsaber hilt is blue or black. Like this image here looks like it's blue, and this was, I'm pretty sure, was this at San Diego Comic-Con? I think this was an image of Marok's hilt, like the prop that they used in the making of Ahsoka. I'm pretty sure that that's what this is. It looks blue to me. It looks like there's blue to the hilt, which, bro, as far as I'm aware, I don't think we've really, the only person's whose lightsaber I could think of is Ezra. You could see like this part right here, this part right here has like blue in it. Outside of that, I don't think anyone else, unless I'm not thinking of someone, has blue in their lightsaber. So if Marok's lightsaber is in fact blue, that'd be dope. I don't know if it's just like the lighting or however whomever took this photo, like how they took it, if maybe it just looks blue, because if you see it here, kind of looks more black than blue. But it just looks so dope. Like I love that his lightsaber blades, like one of the first things that caught my eye when he ignites both his second blade is that the blades aren't very long, which I think makes it, that seems to me much more practical than having lightsabers, the blades be super long on both ends. Cause I feel like it could be herky-jerky. You're trying to like fight with super long blades. And someone, if you're a martial artist and you've actually used like a staff, may know, you know, what's the proper way to fight with a staff. I don't know. I'm assuming you probably don't want it too long, because then you run the risk of like it hitting the ground or hitting your legs or whatever. But yeah, the first thing that caught my eye when he ignited both blades was like, yo, his blades are not very long, which I think is kind of cool. It makes me enjoy his lightsaber even more. But yeah, I love, like you'll see here, he only has like half of his emitter shrouded. But if you look, it like they reverse. So you'll see it's on this side, the shroud, but then if you go down here, it's on the opposite side. Like that looks so freaking sick. So sick. And then he's got like, you know, he's got the two like teeth or whatever, the claws on the circular part of his hilt. Like his hilt, if it were to separate the way that Reva's does, his hilt I probably would like more than Reva's. But at this point, because Reva could use it as a single, detach it one end from the other and use it as a single bladed lightsaber, made me love her lightsaber. And I know Marok, when he's fighting Ahsoka, he does only at one point ignite one blade, and he could fight using just one blade of his saber, which is cool. But I love that Reva could straight up just have, hey, I've got one lightsaber. I could freaking Jarkai your ass and have two lightsabers that I'm fighting you with, or I could connect them and I've got now a double bladed lightsaber. Like that to me is just sick. Like I love that she could do that with her lightsaber. Just so dope. All right, before we move and groove, let's catch up with the chat quickly. All right, so Sully's Gaming YT, welcome my friend. I'm confused about this female. Is she canon, the Dark Side Apprentice? So are you talking about Shin? If you're talking about Shin, then yeah, she's canon. Anyone that's appearing in Ahsoka is canon. So 80s Kid from the 90s says, my favorite lightsaber designs are Kanan and Dooku's. So bro, Dooku, his lightsaber, when Attack of the Clones came out, his lightsaber was bar none my favorite lightsaber when I was a kid. Like, I don't know if you guys are old enough or if you've ever had them or remember. They're cheap, crappy, like plastic lightsabers that like the plastic would extend, and it was just basically a flashlight. Like my friends and I, we all bought lightsabers around the time that Attack of the Clones came out, so we could have duels. And I bought Count Dooku's lightsaber because I'm like, yo, this lightsaber is sick. The claw is sick. And one of the lightsabers that I have from Ultra Sabers, it was like the first lightsaber I bought. I bought it specifically because it has a claw, like the claw on Dooku's lightsaber. That was like, if I saw a lightsaber that had a claw, immediately I was like, yo, that's my favorite lightsaber. But now that shrouds are a thing in lightsabers, I'm much more into lightsabers that have shrouds on it. But yo, Dooku's lightsaber, his lightsaber is sick. That lightsaber is a ballin' ass lightsaber. It's so unique. I love too, like the canon story behind Dooku's lightsaber is dope too. Like Dooku, when it came time for him to craft that lightsaber, if I'm remembering correctly, I think he crafted it once he became a Jedi Master. He like spent a bunch of time researching in the Jedi archives, finding lightsaber designs that were not in vogue, that went against the fashion, we'll say, of the time as far as lightsaber construction. So there was a lot of thought into what went into his lightsaber and the design, and he specifically wanted a lightsaber that did not look like other lightsabers of his peers, which I think is dope. It just makes his lightsaber that much cooler. And yeah, Kanan's lightsaber is pretty sweet. As I mentioned, I'm not the biggest fan of those like circular like cross guards, but I do like Kanan's lightsaber. It is pretty sweet. But that's all the time we got for questions today, you knuckleheads. This was a lot of fun. Danny Girl and I, we were traveling for a bit, so that's why the Q&A went on a little bit of a hiatus. But back home, and now that Ahsoka has dropped, going to be trying to do I'm going to try. I can't promise that the Q&A is going to be each week. I'm going to try to do it, and I think I want to try to do it on Sunday evenings. I think Sunday evenings might be the best night for me to get it done. So I'm going to try to do it each week. I'm going to try to do it on Sunday evenings, but depending upon my schedule, depending upon what I've got going on, might be a little bit of a different day. I may skip some weeks here and there, but definitely keep a lookout. I love doing the Q&As. I love answering questions for you guys. So make sure to keep your eyes peeled for new Q&As to drop. Let me know down in the comments, guys, what are your favorite lightsabers? Do you have a specific lightsaber that you love? Do you like double-bladed lightsabers? Would you want to dual-wield lightsabers? Would you want a lightsaber with a crossguard? Let me know what type of lightsaber you would rock. Let me know what kind of color your lightsaber would be as well, because I would like to know what kind of color would you have. Like I said, depending upon how I'm feeling that day, I might want to rock a green lightsaber. Maybe might want to rock a purple lightsaber. Although I have to say, Jedi Survivor has made me like, I think I could get down with a pink lightsaber. Like, pink lightsabers are dope. Magenta lightsabers are dope. So depending upon the day, it might be different for me. But let me know down in the comments what you guys would rock for your lightsaber. Now's a good time, you jabronis. If you did not like this video, please do so. Help out the channel. Like this video. Subscribe to Star Wars Transmissions. Always appreciate your love. It is super, super appreciated. And follow the channel on TikTok and Twitter at SW Transmissions. So with that said, my friends, I'm going to go relax for the rest of the evening. You have an excellent night. Stay nerdy, and may the Force be with you.